I'm going to demonstrate how to do your sketch. If I could walk around with a camera and actually do this, I guess that would be the best, but I can't do that. So I'm going to show you a crime scene. All right, so here is a crime scene. Do not imagine that this is a drawing. Instead, imagine you're actually looking at a crime scene. Now, for this crime scene, and actually I want to turn it this way. This is oriented correctly because this is north up here. So we're looking at our crime scene, and the first thing we need to do is take some measurements and draw it out. Start by just drawing what this room looks like roughly. So it's rectangular, and notice I'm not taking any measurements or figuring anything out really yet. And so I'm going to draw it like this. These are the walls, and I know I'm kind of going off screen here. So I've drawn this, and I know I have a door here, and as I look at the door swings like this, so I'm going to do this. All right, so that shows me I have a door. I also have a window looking at my crime scene, and the window is over here. Now, when you draw a window, normally you do this kind of thing. You draw one line for the wall, and then you do this double line here for the window. Here I have my rough drawing of the walls. Now, the next thing I see is I have a nightstand and a bed and another nightstand. And then here's a chair of some sort. And then I also have down here a closet and a dresser. So there's a dresser there. And then I also see that I've got a gun on the floor. And this number one happens to be a hat. So I've got a hat over here too. All right. I can even squeeze it in their hat because I got plenty of room. All right, so I've started my rough sketch. And there is a body there, but, oh, what the heck. Let me try the body too. So here's the head, and you'll see why I'm not an artist. And that is a very weird looking person, but I just went ahead and did that. Okay, so there is my crime scene, and here's my rough sketch. Now, the next thing I need to do is take measurements. So as I measure, I'm going to use my tape measure, and I'm going to measure at some point the length of the room and the width of the room. And so let's go ahead and say that this room is 14 feet, 8 inches wide. And it is 13 feet inches this away. Now notice what I did. I put the measurements on the outside of the room drawing. If you put them on the inside, it's just going to get more cluttered inside, and you probably have other measurements you're going to have to do anyway. So that shows me the width and the length of my room. Then I'm going to go around and measure everything that's important. So I get down here and I measure the size of the nightstand. And let's say that nightstand is 1 foot 6 inches by 1 foot 8 inches. So I'm just going to go ahead and put those measurements on there. And then I measure the other nightstand, and they're matching stands, so they actually are the same size. So I'm going to measure them like so, maybe put arrows in there. And then the bed, I measured the bed, and that's 5 feet 10 inches. So it's a queen size bed. And then I can put the measurement on the outside and keep things from getting too cluttered. Now, it's important to know where the bed is. So one thing I can do is measure like from the wall here to the edge of the bed. You want to measure to walls whenever possible. Don't measure to another movable object, because even if you measure where the movable object is and what size it is, it just complicates things. So what you want to do is measure to walls whenever possible. So let's say that that is 2 feet from the wall to the edge of the bed. Now that gives us a little, what do we do about where this is? Well, if I measure between the nightstand and the wall and say it's 1 inch, now I can position the nightstand and the bed with no problem. Well, I want to do the same thing for here, so I'm going to measure between the nightstand and the bed here, and let's say that one is 2 inches. So now I have the measurement between there and there. So I can draw that. I measure the this area, this little wall, and let's say that's 1 foot, and this is 1 foot 0 inches also. I'll put the 0 inches. And then this depth here for this closet, this is a closet, is 2 feet 4 inches. All right. Now, sometimes, and I'm also going to measure where the window starts. So let's say that's 8 inches from the wall here. And then I'm going to measure how long the window is. And let's say that's a 4-foot window. So I'm doing this with my tape measure, measuring all of these things. Now, some things, when you measure them, you want to make sure they're at the right angle. So let's say I measure this chair and it's 3 feet wide and it's 2 feet 8 inches deep. How do I show where it is? Well, I can measure here, and let's say that is 1 foot 4 inches. Make sure I get that in there. 1 foot 4 inches. And is that going to help me position it just right? No, because it can spin, almost anywhere off of that 1 point. So I need a second measurement, and I'm going to go ahead and measure right here to this edge to, by the way, this is north, south, east. So to the east wall, and let's say that's 1 foot 0 inches. Now, when I do my final drawing, I can put that accurately where it needs to go, and also have the right dimensions, right orientation, everything. Now I can do the same thing with the gun perhaps. So I get out my tape measure and I measure from the north wall down to the gun. Now, when it comes to the gun, I could just measure to the center of the gun and whatever that is. And let's say that's 8 feet 11 inches. Well, 8 feet 11 inches to the gun. And then to the east wall, let's say it's 6 feet 7 inches. And that would probably work. And as far as drawing it in, you can always look at a photograph of the scene and draw kind of the angle of the gun when you draw it in. However, what some people want to do instead, especially with guns, is show exactly where they are. So if you have a gun, what you might want to do instead is take 2 sets of measurements, one to the tip of the barrel, or maybe to the top tip here, and note whatever it is. So you'd measure there, and then also measure to the butt of the gun, there, and there. And then that way, you can actually position the gun on your drawing in the right place. All right. And then let's say this hat is 4 feet 8 inches from the wall, the east wall, and 9 feet 11 1/2 inches. Remember, we can round off to the nearest 1/4 inch. Okay, now the next thing I need to do is measure the body before the coroner takes it away. Oh, I want to measure also how much space is between the door jamb and the wall. And let's say that's 4 inches. And then the width of the door, let's say that's 2 feet 6 inches. And where does this wall start? All right, well, that's going to be 6 feet 3 inches from that wall to this wall. And the dresser is 1 foot 6 inch and it's 3 feet. And let's say there is no space between the dresser and the wall to the closet here. All right, I pretty much have the measurements I need except for the body. And remember what I said, we're going to measure to the ankles. So if I'm measuring to the ankles, I'm probably going to use the north wall and the west wall and put whatever that is here. And I'm going to measure here and there. Same with the wrists, the belly button, and the crown of the head. Now you can tell that all of a sudden it's going to start getting really complicated with all the measurements. Well, that's where our sketch measurement page comes in. So and I really encourage people to use this form because it's going to simplify things. It's going to also help you to avoid missing a measurement. The worst thing that could happen is for you to get back to the station and you go, oh my gosh, I missed the measurement. So the idea here is you would put your case number here, the address or location here, and then you have points of reference. So the points of reference in a room might be the north, let's say the west wall is point of reference number 1. The reference number 2 is going to be the north wall. And then the east wall is going to be number 3. Then, when we're measuring the pistol, as an example, right here, and let's say this is going to be item number 1. And we'll talk about numbering items later, but items you collect get a number. You normally don't number the body because you're not collecting the body to put in the property room. So the body is the body, you don't give it a number. But the gun's going to be collected, that's item number 1. So item number 1, I put 1 here and I put pistol. And then point of reference, I have measured to the north wall, and so that is point of reference number 2. So you put the number here that goes with the point of reference that you're using, and then whatever the distance was. Well, that was 8 feet 11 inches. 8 feet 11 inches. And then my second measurement was reference point, it's the east wall, so that's reference point number 3, and it was 6 feet 7 inches. And because the item's on the floor, I don't have to put anything there. So now I have written down my measurements. I could have left the measurements off my rough sketch. Now where this is really going to be helpful is with the body. So I'm just going, let's say 2 is the hat, and that was reference 2 and 9 feet 11 1/2 inches, and reference number 3, it was 4 feet 8 inches. All right, now the body, I measure that. I'm just going to write body, and then have crown of head. And then I go ahead and I do my measurement of the, using 2 reference points. So I'm going to go ahead and use one reference point is going to be the west wall over to the crown of the head. And let's say that that is 2 feet 9 inches. All right. And then my measurement this way from the north wall, which is reference point number 2, is 6 feet 6 inches. And the head was 24 inches, or let's say 2 feet. 2 feet 0 inches off the floor because it's on the bed. All right. I guess I wasn't really showing that. Whoops, put it on the wrong line. So this is crown of head. Erasers are happy devices. All right. So now the next thing is, let's say the right wrist. And so I measure the right wrist. This person is face up. So this is the right wrist here. And let's say that reference point number 1, which is the west wall, over to that is 2 feet 6 inches. And from the north wall, it is 3 feet 6 inches. And it's also 2 feet from the ground. So when you're done, you end up with something like this. So this would be from that rough sketch I just did. We have available to us numbers and letters. Now, with most situations at a crime scene, items that we collect get a number. And so that number is going to be stuck with that item forever and ever. So in our photographs, the pistol is number 1. We see the 1 in the picture. On our property report, it says item number 1. On the paper bag we put it in, or the cardboard box we put it in, it says item number 1. On our sketch, it's going to show item number 1. Everything is item number 1. Now, if it's something we don't collect, but it's important to note or to have a reference to, then we give it a letter. So let's say that the furniture is important for some reason, but you're not going to collect it. Maybe there's some blood stain on it. Well, then you give that piece of furniture a letter, and then you could say that the blood stain, which you do collect, is item number 10, let's say, was collected off of item A. So now that holds true for everything except blood stain. When you get to blood stain pattern analysis, they use letters and numbers in a completely different way. So this is for regular evidence. Okay, now, so you could, if you wanted to, even put the measurements of your furniture on here. So I have a nightstand, and it's 1 foot 8 inches wide. So I'm not using reference points for this. And it's 1.6 inches long, and it's 2 feet tall. So you can do something like that as well. All right, so now we have our rough sketch. So let's say this is my rough sketch right here. So here's my rough sketch of my crime scene. Now I go to the station, and I'm going to draw my final diagram. So I get out my graph paper, and now I want to make things to scale. So my scale is going to be 1/4 inch equals a foot. When you look at your architect's scale, you have to find the 1/4 inch scale. So as I rotate this around, we see 3/4 inch right here and 1/4 inch here. On the other end, it's 1/8 of an inch. So that's where you find your scale. So when I'm drawing my lines, I use the numbers that go from right to left because I'm using the scale of 1/4 inch. But let's say that what I want to do first is draw the width of my room. Well, it is 14 feet 8 inches. Well, the graph paper is 1/4 inch squares. So I could count out 14 squares to get 14 inches, but I'm going to use my architect's scale. So I look here. Boy, this is tough. Let me zoom in a little more. So I look here, and here is 0. And then I look down here and here's 14. So that's how wide my room is going to start. So it's 14 inches, 14 feet, excuse me. And it is also 8 inches, 14 feet, 8 inches. So right here is past the 0 is the fraction of an inch. So that's 1 foot there. And then the large mark in the middle is 6 inches. And then there are inches in between. So I'm going to go to 6, 7, 8. So right there is a line that is 2/4 inch equals a foot scale, 14 feet, 8 inches. Now the room is 13 feet this way. So I'm going to go ahead and try to be in the view of the camera and go 13 feet. Now there's a 12 and a 14, so 13 is right in between the two. All right. And then this one should be also 14 feet, 8 inches. So the graph paper really helps to keep these lines straight. And then I can close it off. All right. Now, a couple of things we need to do here. On the final drawing, you don't have to have all your measurements, but I want to have a few. One of the things that's going to be most most people will be interested in is the size of the room. So I'm going to put 14 feet, 8 inches here, and I'm going to put 13 feet here. And I'm going to go ahead and draw lines with arrows. Okay, so I've drawn my room. Now that window is 4 feet and it starts at 8 inches. So I'm going to come over here and, well, 8 inches we already know is right here because it's 14 feet, 8 inches. So my window is 4 feet. So this is 8 inches. 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is where my window is. So I don't even have to use my scale because I know that these squares are all 1 foot and it just happened to work out nicely. So that's how I draw a window. Now I also need a door. So down here I'm going to draw a door. And I know that the door starts at 4 inches. Remember that? So I'm going to come over here 4 inches. So it's right about there. And then the door is 2 feet, 6 inches wide. So there is a half-foot mark in between. So it goes 0, half foot, 1, half foot, 2, half foot, 3. So 2.5 is right here. So that's where my door is going to go. Now, how do I make a door? Well, I can go ahead and use my template. So I have right here on the template a door, but it's not facing the right way. So I just flip it over. And what you want to do is move it up or down depending on how wide your door is. So here we go like this. And now I can draw my little swing and the door itself. And now I have a door drawn. Of course, there's no wall where my doorway is, so you want to erase that. Unfortunately, it's a little hard to erase, accurately, unless you have an erasing shield. You can get these at any hobby store that sells drafting supplies, and with this, you can just go ahead and position it where you want your erasing to be to an edge, and there we go. I have my opening. So that's a handy thing to have. All right. Then I can go ahead and draw in everything else. So I don't have time to draw everything, but let's say that I want to draw the location of the gun. So I can go ahead and look at my sketch measurement page, or if I did my rough sketch with it, and my sketch measurement says from the north wall, it is 8 feet 11 inches. And so that would be right here on this line, very close to that line, just above that line. And from the east wall, it is 6 feet 7 inches. So 6 feet 7 inches is right there. All right. So right here is where my gun is located. So I can go ahead and draw a little diagram to show a gun and give it a number. Now, I don't have to put the measurements on there because they're on my sketch measurement page. So I can just live with that. And then you go ahead and draw in all the other things. What is going to be the most difficult for most people is drawing the body. But we just go ahead and do all those the best we can. All right, so here is a drawing. It's a little more done of the same thing. And what you see here is, it's not finished, but I did get the body in. So when I draw where the body is, I will check my measurement sheet and I'll measure it out and I'll put a little dot. And then I'll measure and move my dot wherever it needs to be. For the crown of the head, you can see the dots right here if maybe, and the belly button. And then I go ahead and draw the body in once I have all the dots. Your template does have a body, but it's probably not going to be quite the right size. But if you just kind of move it around, make the legs shorter or longer, you can usually get it to work. As you see on here, I have the case number, the crime type, the victim's name. Make sure it says sketched by and then your name. And then if someone assisted you, their name, put assisted by, the address, the date, and then for our legend, that's our title block there. For our legend, we have north. We're showing north, and this is typically how it's done, an N with an arrow. And then since I drew what looks like a pistol, I'm saying pistol, and then a circle with a 2, that's a hat. I have the 1/4 inch equals a foot is the scale, and I also have the notation not drawn to scale.